It's so cold. I had to make hot chocolate to try and warm me up. It's nice outside. It's half decent. But I am so cold. Hopefully this helps. Hi lovelies, my name is Jessica. Welcome to Makeup Misfit. And today I have my first update for Project Level Up. I'm excited. I've thoroughly been enjoying this project, and I've actually been enjoying this round for level 1. If you watched my intro last month, you see that I've changed things up this year, so I'm really excited to continue on this way and get some use on certain palettes in my collection that I have categorized for this project specifically, and then each level has specific palettes tied to them. So for level 1, I had 4 different Natasha Denona palettes that I could choose from, and the one that was chosen was my Sunrise palette. So for level 1, you have to use every shade one time and hit one pan. So I have definitely finally used every shade in this palette once, but I have yet to hit pan on any of the shades. Still don't know which one I want to reach for, but we'll chat about that in a little bit. So every shade in here, like I said, has been reached for at least one time, some a few more than that. But today I had reached for Jasper and Azalea, which were the last 2 shades that still needed one use on them. So I've been trying to keep track in this little notebook. I was falling behind a little bit, so I did sit down one night, go through this palette, mark down every shade that I believe I had used, and I guess I thought I had used these, but I didn't mark them down. So the last 2 shades that I used today were the last 2 to let me complete my one use goal. So what I'm going to do is go through the notebook with you guys. I'm going to post a photo of the palette plus the notebook. So I'm just going to go through it with you guys, but you guys will see it on the screen. And we're just going to go shade by shade. I will let you know how many times I have used each shade, chat about how I may have used them if I remember, and chat about what I may do to hit pan in, or which shade I want to hit pan in. So I'm going to just show you guys this before I post it up for you guys, but I have laid this out, and this is how I'm going to continue to do it for each level. So what I did was just put like the palette for level 1. I've drawn a photo of the actual palette itself. I keep track of how many times I've used it in the photo, but then I've also written out all of the shades and kept track next to them. And then I have a little spot here that says hit pan on, and whichever shade I happen to hit pan on is what's going to get marked down here. And then I will continue this layout for the rest of the levels. So you guys are going to see this and the palette up on the screen. I'm going to go through all of these with you guys. So let's chat. So the first shade in the palette was Poppy. I have used that one time, and I used that today as a blush. I have used a few of these shades as blushes, so I will let you know when I've done that. But my blush brush that I use, I have to just angle it ever so slightly to get it into the pan, because the pans are way too small for me to actually use as blushes. But also because of that, I find like you definitely don't get a lot of product on your face, which is kind of a nice change, because I like to amp up my blush once in a while and just put a ton on there. But it gave this really beautiful, like, natural look. So I paired that one with another one, which I'll explain in just a moment. But the second shade in the palette is Citrine. I've used that once, just in an eye look. Phlox is the second or the third shade on the top row. That is the second blush that I used, or second shade I used as a blush today. So I paired Poppy and Phlox together. And today, like, I do have I have an actual blush on top of this, so I am wearing quite a bit. So this isn't what they look like paired together, but it still gave a very beautiful natural look, because for one, it's a little bit of a shimmer, so it gave it just that extra little touch. But because there's so little product on the brush, that you're not getting an overpowering amount, especially for the tones of these shades. Now, they are definitely a little bit too much for me to use as an actual blush. Like, if this was a full blush size, I would not want to use it as a blush, probably. Not in the capacity that I normally do anyways. But I did enjoy using it the way that I have. So we're going to move on to the fourth shade in the top row, which is Awakening. I have used this marked down as once, but I feel like I've used it twice at least. We're going to stick with the one time, because that's my minimum usage. That's all that I need, so we're good there. But this is a shade that I'm considering for hitting pan on. So we'll chat about that a little bit later. Laurel is the last shade on the top, and that also has one use on it. Second row, Aster has one use. Glory, I have marked down as only one time, but again, I feel like I've used this twice. I do believe I used Glory as a blush as well, but I used this one in an eye look like pretty much right after I had rolled this palette in the intro. I used this with Carnelian and I really enjoyed it. And then I want to say just like not that long ago, I used it as a blush. So there could be possible 2 uses on this one as well, but this is not one that I'm considering to hit pan on. So whether there's 1 or 2 uses, it doesn't make a difference to me. Next is Azalea, which I had used today. Morgan, I have used 3 times. I used this one today as well, but I used this in the transition and I used Azalea on the outer corner. What I did was I tapped Jasper on the outer corner ever so slightly. I tapped Azalea on top of that. I used Morgan and Morning in the as the transition, and then I used other shades from other palettes and singles that I'm working on for my lids. So Morgan I have used 3 times. Agate I have used once. Clove I have used once, and I think it was yesterday or the day before I used that as a blush, which was really pretty. Carnelian I've used 1 time. Jasper, that's what I used today, I've used that the 1 time. Morning I've used 4 times, and Morning and Morgan are the ones that I've been reaching for as transition shades in this palette. I do pair them together. Even though Morning has 1 extra use on it, I used it by itself 1 time, but usually I'm pairing the 2 together. I do find that they are a little bit brighter than what I was expecting for a transition, but it could be maybe just like the color of the inside of the palette. If it was a darker tone, like if it was black or maybe if it was white, I don't know if it would make a difference and you would actually see the brightness. But for a transition, they still work. So it's good enough for me. I just like tend to blend it out just ever so slightly more than normal, but they still work. I enjoy it. I like how they look, so no complaints there. And then Dayspring is the last shade in the palette. I have used that twice. Now, the shades that I want to hit pan on, I don't know which one. Aster has a little piece of my heart. I'm just going to show you guys. So this is Aster, which has a little piece of my heart, and I do want to hit pan on this shade, but I don't know if that's what I'm going to gravitate towards. I am also trying to consider my Penless eyeshadows and any other projects that I'm working on that may have shadows in them, like Birthstone Beauty, my #Beauty Chest project, my 50 Shades of Yellow. There's other projects that I work on that I still want to pull eyeshadows into, so I want to make sure that I can still use whatever shade I choose from here on almost an everyday basis, or be able to at least pair it with those other shades when I so feel like it, because I would like to get to level 2 hopefully soon. And I do hear that these are very difficult to hit pan on. So even though Aster is one that I am still considering, what I think I'm leaning towards is one of these 3 shades here. So this is Awakening, this one's Laurel, and this one is Agate. Dayspring, I don't know if that's what I want to use to hit pan on, but I feel like I'll still be reaching for it a little bit because I am pairing this with a gold and another project. So, I mean, it could definitely work, but I feel like I would use one of these 3 and mainly use it as an inner corner, or do like the inner third of my lid, tap it on top of whatever else may be in there or on my lid. So we'll just have to see how it goes, but I think those are the 3 that I'm going to focus on. I still don't know. I'm sure at some point I'll like narrow it down a little bit more and just end up focusing on 1 shade. But I do want to get a little bit more love on those 3 shades and just see which one I feel like I would prefer to use, and then just kind of decide as I go. I'm sure at some point, like I said, I'll narrow it down and just choose when I feel like it. But as for now, those 3 shades are like my top 3. I am still going to show some use on Azalea. I won't keep track. Well, maybe I will. I was going to say I wasn't going to keep track of Azalea because I wasn't planning on hitting pan, but maybe I will, just to see what ends up happening in the end. Who knows? Maybe that's the one that I end up hitting pan on, and I would like to have that usage in there anyways. Considering I had not used this palette prior to, it'd be kind of cool to see how long it takes to hit pan on a shade, even if it's not one that I'm focusing on. So level 1 is sticking around for another month or so at least. Hopefully I can get to level 2 next month, but if not, by April is what my goal is for sure. I would like to continue on with this project this year, not stay stuck on level 1, but I knew that I wanted to put my Natasha Denona palettes in level 1 because they were harder. So I wanted to kind of categorize them on how I feel I would like to work on them. So Natasha, Denona, the 4 palettes that I chose for this project are all in level 1. So after this, unless I get to level 1 again this year, I will not be working on another Natasha Denona palette in this project. But we shall see how it goes. So that is everything for this project. For this update, please go check out the description box. Sophie Alexandra, everything is just like down there as always. So that is everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys all later. Bye.